Hi everyone, we're about a minute early. I'm just going to give everyone a couple minutes to log in from the waiting room, and that will give me a chance to get the closed captioning started, and then we will launch into introductions for the webinar. So as I log into the closed captioning, you should see a red live button at the top left of your screen once it launches. And you can click on that to see the closed captioning, and I'll also put it in the chat box. I'll put the link for closed captioning in the chat box. In case you can't just click on it at the top of your screen. Sometimes it doesn't quite work like we want it to. All right, the closed captioning is up and running, so I will go ahead and welcome everyone. Hi everybody, thank you for joining us for Tech Tuesdays number 4. We are still going with our Tech Tuesdays series, and I'm really excited to have all these experts in child welfare with us today. I first want to thank the Public Interest Law section of the Florida Bar for continuing to support Tech Tuesdays in its never-ending versions. Martha Pardo is leading PILS right now, and she's at Community Legal Services of Mid-Florida. And a special thank you to Cabral Banner at the Florida Bar for getting our CLE approved so quickly for each of these sessions. So I will announce that at the end. And there's also credit available for non-attorneys through the Child Welfare Certificate. So we've got all your names through the registration report, and we'll get that out to you after the webinar. This is being recorded, and it will be posted on our YouTube page, which I'll post the link for in case any of your colleagues couldn't make it. I already announced closed captioning, but once again, it is the red live button at the top of your screen, and there's a link in the chat box also. I think that's it for my announcements, and I'm Christie Baglow. I forgot to say that. I'm the Director of Statewide Training at Florida Legal Services, and I am excited to introduce this panel to you today. We will have Robert Latham. He's the Associate Director of the Children and Youth Law Clinic at the University of Miami, and he has graciously volunteered to be our moderator and to take questions after each speaker's presentation, so I really appreciate that. And we have Robin Rosenberg, who is the Deputy Director of Florida's Children First. Happy to have you back again, Robin. Next, we have Lisa Coy, and she is the Assistant Program Director at the Center for Child Welfare at the University of South Florida in Tampa. And last but not least, we have Hans Soder, who is a data analyst at the Department of Children and Families. He agreed to hop in at the last minute when his colleague could not present, so I really appreciate you doing that. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Lisa Coy from USF.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to share information with folks that work with children and families in the state of Florida. I'm going to share my screen so I can walk people through the website and the Center for Child Welfare. So just a little bit of background information. The Center for Child Welfare is a website. We are a clearinghouse of information that we provide to people living in the state of Florida who work with children and families in the child welfare system in Florida. We've been around for about 13 years, and we started out and continue to be a contract but with the Department of Children and Families to provide information, disseminate information coming from the department to provide training for child welfare professionals and for caregivers through our websites. So our website is, like I said, a huge clearinghouse of information. We have a newsletter that reaches a group of about 10,000 people, and we send out a weekly newsletter. So if you aren't already receiving our newsletter, you can always send us an email at centersupport@usf.edu, and I can put that in the chat later. Our newsletter provides information about anything that's been updated from the Department of Children and Families as far as new policy and procedural guidance and new trainings that we have provided on the website. So I just wanted to kind of share the website. It is a really massive website with a lot of information. And so it can get a bit confusing to find information. First of all, we'll just go through the homepage, and that's where we talk about any upcoming events that are happening this week or in the future. And today we have Tech Tuesdays, which we're a part of right now. And then there's a national webinar that's coming up. Currently, we're working on some events for the state. One is a grant writing training series that we're presenting for anybody involved in the state. This is a cooperative event with the Department of Children and Families, and it's being offered for free for anybody in the state of Florida. With some of the changes, we know that providers and agencies are going to need to seek out some additional funding through grant opportunities. And it's a great way to bring new practices and new things that people can do when they're working with children and families. So any of these you click on here, it provides a little bit of information, and then there's registration links as well. We're also currently working on a present danger safety plan. This is part of our safety planning series. So anybody who's working with children in the child welfare system have most undoubtedly heard about safety plans and family assessments and assessing children and families. So this is a webinar series that we're working with Action for Child Protection, who helped to develop this safety methodology that is the practice model for the state of Florida. And we're doing an updated webinar series to help ensure that child welfare professionals in the state of Florida are using the most current practices and are trained to the utmost in being able to use practices with the children and families in Florida. So that's just our homepage. You can always check out we have an events calendar and information that goes out about our newsletters, and then a little bit about us information. And if I didn't say, we are contracted with the Department of Children and Families, and we are housed at the University of South Florida in Tampa. So we have great ability and opportunities to share resources with other other staff and programs that are at USF as well. And actually some of those other folks are helping us with the grant writing series as well. As we go through the website, the field tips is something that's for staff that are working out in the field, information that they can grab quickly from the website to be able, if they're working with children and with families in the field. Recent updates. These are some new initiatives or updates that are happening across the state or across from Department of Children and Families. Of course, coronavirus updates are important now at this time. Sorry for my pop-ups. And then there's also different new FISFIN releases that have been released by the Department of Children and Families. So there will be information, sometimes training or policy or reports pertaining to those particular updates. The policy tab is, I know, a favorite of some people, and it contains policy memos from the Department of Children and Families. We are on their mailing list, so we are part of their information dissemination plan. So any policies that come out from the department pertaining to child welfare, they are posted here on the website. And we have, going back many years for policy. So if at any point you're searching for information that is pertaining to a case maybe that has been around for quite a while and policy may have changed, you can always search in the archive policy part of the website to find those older policies. Also, anything that anybody has trouble finding on the website, you can always email us at centersupport@usf.edu and we can help track down information as well. The CFOP, or Children and Families Operating Procedures, are located here. And these are the current operating procedures to guide child welfare staff in completing and using the Florida Child Welfare Practice Model. So all of the policies are here and searchable. They're PDF documents, and you can click on the entire document to search. And those are all the CFOPs that are currently published. And again, we get these straight from the department. So as soon as updates happen, then they are posted on our website. We also have links to Florida Administrative Code that as they pertain to child welfare, and we keep these updated as they are produced through the Florida Rules website. And we also have Florida statutes. Unfortunately, right now, we're still stuck in 2019 statutes until they post the new statutes on the Florida Online Sunshine website. But the statutes, they're completely searchable, so you can search through the entire Chapter 39. We also have places where we will link the Chapter 39 back to the Florida Administrative Code or to policy. So there's quick links that you can jump back and forth from one to the other. And let me see. And then federal regulations. These are, as new federal regulations are posted, then we put those on the website as well. So we also have statutes relating to adoption and some other sections that are important for people working with children and families. Let me see. So our services menu is where the child welfare staff can find information that they need when they're trying to find resources for families or practice information on taking care of families. And this, again, it's information coming from the Department of Children and Families in regards to just about anything that you need when you're working with children in the foster care system or in out-of-home care, or children that are still in home with their parents. And legislative changes. This again is going back to any changes in statute or code that have happened through the years, and we have that information. Training this is where staff can come to get their pre-service training curricula information. So as new staff are hired, they can come here to find all the curriculum. And like I said, all this curriculum is available on our public website. So people know, it's pretty transparent that people know how people are being trained throughout the state. And then we also have, every year is the Child Dependency Summit. And we post recorded videos and all the materials from each of the dependency summits. This year, the dependency summit just occurred and it was virtual. So it was a little bit different. We weren't there to record any of the webinars, but we will be receiving those on our website at some point. There's about 80 different webinars that were recorded, and they'll be available here. So these workshops were recorded, and they may or may not have certificates available, quizzes available for people to take and gain child welfare protection, child welfare professional in-service training hours. And again, our online training video library, these are recently added training videos. And then our topic list is quite huge. We have several hundred training videos that are available to anybody within the state of Florida. We give out, between foster parent and child welfare professional users, we give out about 6,000 training certificates per month. So these are widely used, and there are so many trainings that are good for not only learning practice and staying on top of practice, but also anybody that's caring for children, caregivers, and parents as well can use our trainings, and anybody who's interested in learning more about the child welfare system. Let me see, I'm just kind of jumping through here. FSBN, so I know there's going to be some information later about FSBN. We have all the how do I guides and topic papers, user guides, everything again related to FSBN. And again, this is something that we are the information dissemination spot for the Department of Children and Families. We receive these directly from the department. And so all the FSBN guides and topic papers are listed here. And ROA, or results-oriented accountability and quality management. This is where we have the QA reports and QA tools that have been used when they do file reviews and different reviews around the state, and contract monitoring reports. And we also have links over here to the DCF Child Welfare Dashboard that I know Hans is going to be talking to us about a little bit later. And throughout here, our circuit pages. So each region or circuit has the ability to post information pertaining to their individual circuit on this spot, on these resource pages. Some of the areas may use these a little bit more robustly than other areas, but it's a space that's designed for the individual areas to be able to use and share information with their either just staff or with families and the public in general in their area. Courts information, not a whole lot here. We used to work a little bit more closely with the Office of Courts, but then there's just some dependency guides and tools here. Probably need to be updated a little bit. And then we have publications. So these are publications from the department, mandated reports to the legislature, OIG reports that goes directly to the Department of Children and Families website. But the mandated reports to the legislature, these are all the reports that are submitted on a yearly basis. Currently we have the current year and 2 prior years on the website, but we have all the others housed, and we can resource those documents. If anybody needs us to research anything, we can go ahead and do that as well. And frequently asked questions. We have many questions from all over the state. Part of the reason why we came into being is many years ago, when community-based care happened, then the local areas kind of lost their people that were from the state and in the local areas to be able to promote policy and best practice. So we became, we found that people around the state were getting different answers to different questions regarding policy and statute. So we became that single point of contact. We liaison with the department, or we research answers to questions that are pertaining to policy. We take questions from anybody. We get questions from the community all the time. Unfortunately, we cannot answer any case-specific questions, but most likely we'll be able to link that person back with their local area and with somebody that is able to address their question and their issue. So our frequently asked question library, again, is huge, and we work hard to keep that updated when there's updated policy, statute, or code. All of the questions reference one of those. And then we have contact listings. So if you're ever looking for the lead agency staff that can give you information, then we have contact listings here. DCF Region Contacts, Guardian Ad Litem, it points to their website. Independent Living Contacts, Law Enforcement is FDLE. And one of the things that we kind of just started, well, we've been doing it for several years, state child abuse registries. This is for every state, and prior to placement of a child, if the caregivers lived out of state within the last 5 years, then there needs to be a background check completed in the state where they resided. So we have connection or contact information for all the states, and we keep this updated quite a bit. And that is about it as far as contacts. And I know I have just a few more minutes. So this is the Center for Child Welfare website. And like I said, it is a huge clearinghouse of information. Our email, you can ask us any questions. It's centersupport@usf.edu, and that's how somebody can get on to our mailing list as well. I also wanted to show just really quickly is the QPI and just-in-time training website. And this website is for caregivers, relative caregivers, any out-of-home caregivers, foster parents, and relatives, non-relatives, and parents also can benefit from these trainings here. Again, everything is free. It's a public open website. Again, just focusing on our training library. Again, there's hundreds of trainings that we have listed here, everywhere from dealing with different behaviors that children may have, talking about child development, trauma-informed care, really great trainings that are useful for anybody, whether you're in the child welfare system or not, really. Great information to help make sure that children in our communities are safe and being cared for by caregivers that are trained and have information about the system and information about just what they need to be able to keep kids safe. Again, in this has a calendar and some different training topics, and also some resource pages here about different things that caregivers may need to know about when they're working with kids in the child welfare system. And let me see, I think I may have covered everything. So I don't know if there's any questions that anybody has.
Lisa, we actually do. We have a great question. So, so a lot of people right now are looking for information about racism in the child welfare system specifically. Okay. And so if you don't mind, could you start from the very first screen, like a person who would come to this site and pretend you're a person who doesn't know it well? Could you walk us through the steps that you would find, or you would use to try to find policies, anti-discrimination policies, trainings, et cetera, around racism in the child welfare system?
So happens to be that we do have a webinar coming up. So luckily we have that right on our homepage.
Hey, all right, but how would you find that if you didn't know that?
Well, that's the thing, is that if you didn't know that, you would just be scrolling right at this moment to find this training. But we do have a search button, and let's see. I don't know that the training itself would come up. And did I spell that wrong? No. So it may come up with some safety methodology, so the practice guidelines, which would talk about bias and anti-discrimination. But we do have that search function, so that would be helpful. As far as statistics or disproportionality, we may have some of that information, but that would link back to the Child Welfare Dashboard. That would be with the Department of Children and Families.
That's awesome. So we had one quick question from the Q&A. Are any of the resources in Spanish, especially the QPI trainings?
QPI trainings, we have several resources. There's trainings that are in Spanish. Let me see. We may have in Espanol trainings. So we do have several that are in Spanish. As far as policy and statute that are in Spanish, and even curriculum that is in Spanish, we do not have that. So we don't have the resources to be able to translate all that information, and we haven't received that from the Department of Children and Families. But whenever we have the opportunity to grab any publications or develop any videos, training videos that are in Spanish, we'll definitely have that there and post it.
Awesome. We had another question about resources specifically for attorneys ad litem, so attorneys for children in the child welfare system.
Yeah, so we do have, I mean, basically it's information about anything happening within the child welfare system. If there's anything in particular you're looking for, you can always contact us and we can help find that information. We may have some policy information about policy regarding children with developmental disabilities that need to be appointed an attorney. And we may have some youth information that would be helpful.
Gotcha. Before I turn it over to my other panelists to see if they have any questions, we did have a recommendation from some from the audience that there is actually a Google Translate button there on the page. Use it at caution with your own,
yes.
With caution, of course.
Yes. Well, yeah, we do have the Google Translate, but as far as like publications that have been authentically translated, we don't have that fully throughout the library.
Thank you for all that great information, Lisa. I just want to hop in with regards to the attorney ad litem information. I am running a webinar tomorrow with legal aid of the Orange County Bar Association, and it's specifically about guardians ad litem in domestic relations and dependency court. So I'll post the link to that in case anyone is interested. Thanks for fielding all the questions, Robert. And I think we are ready to move on to Hans Soder at DCF. He's going to do a demo of the DCF dashboard.
Just one comment before I go. On the ROA site, on the child welfare site, under the ROA tab is the item Child Welfare Key Indicator Report. And within that, basically, we maintain a large portion of the metrics that are available on the dashboard in a paper format already mapped out and laid out for you. Generally in table format, so you can do a quick look to find CDC data, get an idea how your local area is doing or what's going on with that. So it's kind of a cheat. You just go in there, 80 pages of fun, and that will help you if you don't want to sit there and look through the data and try to pull the data down yourself. Or you can look there first and see if the data is available. But let's go ahead and share the screen. Share the screen. And we're going here. All right, so the first thing you have to know about the dashboards is that you must access the dashboards in Google Chrome. If you access them in a different type of web browser, you're probably not going to be able to open them up or get the view that you really want on those. Hang on. So, oh, hang on. Ah! I fried it. Hang on. So let's go Google. Let's call it the dashboard. And there we go. Okay, and let me share the screen again. All right, so when you enter into the dashboards, basically you get here to the home page first of the DCF site. Scrolling down, services, about us. Geez, man. I went one too far. So you're the dashboard home, excuse me. So here's the dashboard home. You enter into the system. You get a series of measures, general information that tells you what's going on within the system right off the bat. Child welfare measures. So you have 19,898 hotline reports assessed last month, and roughly 35,937 children receiving services at that point. This is as of 6:30. So this is just kind of like your quick view of what's going on in the system. Click over here, your child welfare measures. You begin to see a whole lot of everything that we're measuring in the system of care. By and large, this is a complete listing of the basic child welfare reports. CBC scorecard reports have this data contained within them usually, and that data is at to the CBC level. CPI is for investigations. Federal measures is for federal measures. Child welfare trends, these are generally monthly reports that you can track on a monthly basis. Other link reports, these are like a set of specialized reports. Foster care bed capacity, foster care licensing, some quality management things, items like that. So the first thing you really need to do is kind of look through and see if the title matches up to what you're looking for. I'm going to click on children entering care to out-of-home care as the one we're going to take a peek at. The dashboard has 4 tabs on it. Some of the reports have 5. Those are generally quarterly reports, and I'll show you one in a little bit. But basically what it shows you is, here's the basic trend of data going back to 9/30 of 2003 up to 8/31 of 2020. It gives you the basic trend. So these are monthly counts of children entering out of home care. You can get the ages. You can get maltreatments. This is not an individual maltreatment account. This is all children who entered care who had this as one of the primary reasons for entering. So, for example, there were 1,021 kids that entered care last month. If you were to do the maltreatments and break them out, you'd end up at about 1,800 total maltreatments, or 1.8 maltreatments per kid. You can get gender and you can get race. If you come up here, you can filter it down to the region, circuit, CBC, or county level. Let's take ours down to the CBC level. And if a lot of people are on the site right now, it'd be really appreciative if you got off. When too many people get on the site, it really grinds. And we'll see if it can generate there. Yeah.
Well, while it's waiting, maybe talk a little bit about how often it's updated.
Yeah, so generally speaking, there are two types of measures on the dashboard. There are measures that are updated monthly, and there are measures that are updated quarterly. And so what you're looking for there is on quarterly measures, there's a report periodicity tab up top that pops up, and you can kind of click in and look, and you can see where it's updated and how often it updated. All right. Let's see. Nope. Or those monthly measures. Usually we try to update them by the 15th of each month. We've been running a little slow with COVID. Generally, they've been updating around the 18th through the 20th since April. All right, let's head back. That's not going to go. And we'll go back to children entering care. So if I were to start clicking through here on these filters, I could like multi-select ages by using my control button and then multi-selecting through here. I could multi-select out just females at the statewide level if I click on it. And that's probably not going to go. But by clicking on these things or multi-selecting ages, filter down to what you're looking for as far as I want to look at African Americans who entered the out-of-home care system between the ages of 0 and 5 who had drug abuse by a parent as the option. And then that will auto-adjust your line graph. It will readjust your counts, and it will move these things around. And there we go, females. So there are 520 of the roughly 1,000 children that entered out-of-home care last month were females. We're going to go back one more. And we're going to go back to children entering out-of-home care. So you can get a quick, so basically what it does is it allows you to do a quick trend chart. You can get an idea of your ages and some rapid filters in there. I would suggest before you do any measure that the first tab you go to is the methodology tab and get just a general read through of what's going on with that measure. A lot of the measures have very different numerators and denominators. In this case, you're looking at a monthly measure that's updated each month. There are some CBC metrics and federal measure metrics that look at denominators that contain a 12-month period. And when they're updated on a quarterly basis, they re-snap to another 12 months. So reading the methodology tab gives you an idea of what's going on. The change log will tell you when the data was rerun or when it was last run, what major changes might have been made to the data set. And then on the data tab, if we can get over there, you can get to the raw data. It comes out in a table format. You can compress or expand your data set through here. And then you can run multiple filters on the data where you can select all. So this would be all children entering out-of-home care to age 22. You can deselect and just select the ages you want. If there's an apply key to it, you must hit the apply key. And then you can select download options that give you the image, the data, the crosstab, PDFs, etc. The bulk of people will want to use crosstabs. Sometimes the crosstabs don't work. One of the tricks is you have to either make sure that this first line is highlighted blue, or you can hit the sort functionality And you can modify the data from showing August 20th as the first date to August 20th as the last date. And then we can download that into a crosstab. And the data comes up. And then the data is stratified out to Florida, Central Region, all of the DCF circuits, CBC level, and all the way down to the county level. Let's see if we can get back to another measure. And let's take a look at children in care 12 to 23 months achieving permanency within 12 months. And I can show you the 12-month data. So generally speaking, if you see a report period tab, you know that data is updated quarterly. And if you look at the report period, it will tell you what you're looking at. And so what we're looking at here is children who were in out-of-home care as of 7/1/2019 and whether they achieve permanency within the next 12 months. Back here, it indicates that for children who entered care on 7/1/19, 50% who were in care 12 to 23 months on 7/1/19, 50% of those achieved permanency within the next 12 months. And let's see if we can get it to go down to a CBC level here. Let's see if we can get it without grinding for 12 hours. So the trick here is the dashboards really are a great source to just kind of get general trend. There we go. And let's pick. I'll see if it's going to let me pick. We'll pick Big Bend. The dashboards are a great source for getting general information on the fly very quickly. And it shows Big Bend, of course, of the kids who were in care on, of the 303 total children who were in care on 7/1/2019, 134 of those achieved permanency within 12 months, over the next 12 months for 44.2%. And let's see if we can put an age filter on. So we'll put the zeros on. And let's put the 1 on. And so you do that simply by holding the control key and double selecting. And so there were 100 children who were age under 1 to 1 year of age in out-of-home care on 7/1/2019 who had been in care for 12 to 23 months. And of that, 53 achieved permanency within the next 12 months for 53% total. And then you can get some, and then these kind of update and change. You get an idea of how many went to adoption, how many went to reunification, and what their time to permanency was based upon the measure. These kind of switch out. So I would suggest always check your methodology. I really want to emphasize that. It really helps you understand what it is you're looking at, because the numerators and denominators do kind of shift around between reports. They're not static. And on the data table, I would remind you that you can extract the data through the download function. If it's not working, just make sure you highlight that as blue. And the crosstab is generally the easiest for you guys to use. It extracts it into Excel. That's an easy way to move the data around, or an easy way to kind of repivot and get everything organized. That's about all I have as far as how to adopt and move through. Over here, when you're operating your filters, just make sure that if you have an apply functionality, you do select it. Because if you don't click that apply functionality, and I will show you, the data doesn't change. And as soon as you change the data, it modifies. So that's about what I have. Does anybody have any questions, comments, feedback? I know Robert is really familiar with these.
I love this. This is one of my favorite websites on the whole internet. So Hans, there's a lot of reports there. Could you explain like how they came to be? Because some of them make sense because they're federal measures, but some of them seem kind of odd. And are you working on any new ones? Is there anything coming out?
We are not currently working on any new reports right now that I'm aware of. But generally speaking, what you're looking at on those reports are a lot of the data feeds back into kind of those federal reports, or they're a subset of those federal reports. So, one of the federal reports is victims seen in 24 hours, and it's really not victims seen. It's not victim scenes on the federal measures. It's attempts to see victims. The department, to kind of tighten that up a little bit, created their own measure. Let's see victims in 24 hours. How are we doing on that, and what proportion are we getting there? And so that allows us to kind of operationalize some of these things because, dashboards operate off of fixed data points, right? An event has to occur. That event has to be in FISFIN. We want to extract it and look at it. We don't get this kind of amorphous thing of like, well, did you make good attempts or did you not make good attempts? It's hard to do that and pivot it out of data on the fly. So it allows us to operationalize it a little bit more. And then on the back end on that too is, oh, hey, Josie.
Hey, Josie.
And then on the back end on that is all of those dashboard reports have corresponding listing files in the FISFIN application. So if you can get to the reporting section of FISFIN, you theoretically can see all those back-end listing files and understand, all that of what was generated and spun out of that report and how it manned up.
And Hans, for those who are watching who may not know, FISFIN is DCF's statewide database that all case managers and everybody else.
Right. It's a statewide automated child welfare information system called SACWIS. All information is supposed to reside in FISFIN. So it's just basically the case management tool for them.
Got it.
So reams and reams and reams of data are available. If you have the patience to go through there and you want to read those data methodology tabs, you can become an expert on the child welfare system in probably about a month, maybe 2.
So a couple other questions. So kind of going on our last question from the last round, there are some racial disproportionality dashboards. Can we look at those? We haven't looked at those yet.
I believe the racial disproportionality dashboards may have been taken down.
Taken down. Okay. Do we know why?
I'm not 100% sure what was up with that. I didn't really have anything to do with those. I'd have to relocate them again. Okay. There's a racial disproportionality report, and I know that report used to be posted on the center website, but where that report went to, I can't tell you.
Okay. So maybe we have some work to do to find those.
Yeah, it could have been the person who was running the report got moved and something happened with it. It could be that they're just not getting updated anymore because somebody's not mailing them out.
Gotcha.
They are there, and you can determine racial disproportionality at some level through the dashboards by using that race filter, right?
Right.
You can identify what's the average or what's the general length, what proportion of kids are getting to permanency in 12 months, 12 to 23 or 24 plus months by race. And you can see some slope on there. You can definitely see disproportionality in entry numbers. So, if you're willing to sit there and do it and operate the filters and wait a little bit for those things to churn, you can get pretty far into it.
So I want to open it up maybe to some of the other panelists. Maybe what are some of the interesting ways you've seen the dashboards used in your communities or in your practice?
Well, I will say I will get requests from people sometimes when they're writing grants, like legal aid programs that are writing grants. or trying to get a sense of how their community compares to other communities. If they're having a hard time getting appropriate placements for their child clients, and they want to know how their CBC is comparing to other CBCs and where those kids are located, or the type of placement, if they feel like their community is behind in placements with relatives. So I can direct them to the dashboard where they can run the data and look at what's happening in their own community, and then compare that statewide and look at other places to figure out, wow, this other community seems to be doing that a lot. You know, let's go figure out what they're doing differently, and how we can, can we learn something from them to bring up that particular aspect of what we're doing. So those are the, we at Florida's Children First, we use the dashboard all the time for a variety of things to check on what's going on. And I can say that as a statewide organization that's part of national networks, it really is a treasure. Most of our colleagues in other states don't have either the Center for Child Welfare or the public data ready at the fingertips. And some of them, it's like pulling teeth to get any data out of their state. And it's really a treasure trove, which sometimes can be overwhelming because there is so much available to us, real time. And that's, it's a gift. And we are really appreciative of DCF for putting all of that out and continuing to make that available to everybody, and for contracting with USF to make that resource available too.
Hey, Robert, one comment too on the dashboards. When using monthly data, especially, people need to remember that the last 3 months of data is relatively fluid, right? And so, for example, exits in care usually undercount by about 10% on a month-to-month basis until you get to 3 months out to where the data locks. And we do that just simply because FSMN's a dynamic system. It's constantly changing, it's updating. We want to make sure we have the full set in there. So we leave the 3 most recent months of data as kind of float. And so every month that you generate new data in there, those last 3 months, or the most recent drop, and then the last 2 months will update with new data. So if you're doing that, make sure that you don't get too fixated on the most recent data point, because I can tell you right now that most recent data point is going to change.
Right, and that's highly relevant right now with so many people scrambling looking for COVID information, right? How is the pandemic affecting child welfare? And the reality is at least 3 months of the data is still provisional until everything settles.
Right, and then it's going to be odd when we get out of COVID. We do a lot of year-over-year comparison stuff. And so just looking at the, basically April and May data is pretty wonky right now. And so knowing that the COVID is really cooked into those April and May numbers, it kind of normalized a little bit more in June. Be really careful when you're looking at that data and looking at those April and May points and going, well, what the heck happened there? Or what does that mean? Because I'm not 100% sure that really means a whole lot right now. It's just really low end sizes, really low volume, a very slow operating system in general. And I don't think there's any deep meaning to be derived from those 2 months of data.
Got it. We did have a question in the Q&A, and Hans, this may not be your department, but we'll ask it. So this data is coming in through FSFN, and you did talk about people who have access to FSFN directly could look at these reports, and kind of others as well. Do you know how other people other than DCF and the subcontractors can get access to FSFN? Is that a possible thing?
No, I don't believe that is a possible thing. And the reason, quite simply put, is that it's a secure system with personal information in there and detailed information, and you just can't open it up to the entire world for people to go in there and peek around. I guess the point would be is that if you have a really, really detailed question and you can get summary data off of the dashboard that helps you understand what the question you really want to ask is, that's a great first step to then going, well, what is in those listing files, or what might be in a listing file?
Right. And at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about public records requests and kind of getting more detailed data kind of that way.
And that allows us to sanitize it out and get you the data you want, but not have to open up the whole system and run that through, where you're going in and seeing individual parents' names, child's names, social security numbers, the whole thing, right?
Lisa, I saw you had a comment.
Sorry. Well, yeah, I was just looking at the question because it looked like it was from an attorney ad litem or a guardian ad litem. I wasn't sure. So there, I know that if somebody is attached to a case and they are a different provider, some providers are able to get access. They have to contact somebody within their region to be able to get access to that particular case. But it's restricted access. They don't get like parent information if they're a guardian ad litem and that sort of thing. So I don't know if that was the question, if that was pertaining to that or not. And also I do know is even working at USF and trying to get data, sometimes it is a struggle sometimes to get data from BISVN because it is so detailed and demographic information.
I think that takes us to the next speaker. Christie, did you want to do the introductions?
Yes, thank you so much for that demonstration. Next up, we have Robin Rosenberg back again with us. If anyone's interested, she did a great child welfare legislative update for us on July 31st. So that's on the YouTube page for anyone who's interested. So welcome back. Thank you for joining us again, Robin.
Great. Hi, everyone. It is great to see you. Well, not see you. Great to see your names. I see a lot of familiar names in the participants, and I wish we could be in person together, but a lot more of us can be doing this, and you can be looking at my screen from wherever you are. So I appreciate everyone attending and hope that we can provide you some good tools. So what I am sharing with you right now is the screen of the Florida Dependency Law Center. Unlike the other two sites that we looked at, this is a restricted site. It is only available to attorneys and judges who are in good standing with the Florida Bar. So those of you who are not attorneys and judges and aren't already members of the site, this is a sneak peek that lawyers and judges can get in on. So the reason is this is a secure site. It is free, but you have to register. So the registration information is up here on the homepage. If you work in an office, we can pre-register a bunch of people on your staff. I can send you a spreadsheet. Your office can send me back the data and we can get them pre-registered to get everybody started. Otherwise, people have to register individually. When you get on the homepage, one of the key utilities for this site is the recent news section. So when we have new exciting things, this is where we put it. And then at least once a month, if not more often, we send an email update to all of the registered users, pointing out what's new on the site or what they might find interesting. So for example, Christie just talked about the legislative update. We've put the summary, the actual information is here in the on the recent news. Also, the case law update. So if you were not able to attend at the Dependency Law Summit, every year one of the highlights is DCF Stephanie Zimmerman and Andrew Fagenbaum's presentation updating on the cases in the past year. So they were kind enough to allow us to place their materials on the website. And if you're a registered user, you'll be able to click into it and pull up their documents. The other thing I wanted to point out to you that is new and is a new online resource is the new resource that was launched by the Department of Children and Families called My Florida, My Family. So this is not Florida Dependency Law website, but it is one that you might want to take a look at. It's intended to be a resource to match volunteers and nonprofits in the community with individuals who are in need. And so if you're working with a family that needs help, that maybe they're not going to get through the case plan, but they need from the community, this is a place where you can go in and offer help or request help for someone. It's powered by a national resource called Aunt Bertha. So it's tapped into a number of existing nonprofit organizations. So check it out. It is was launched at the Dependency Summit, and so we included it on our recent news. So that's always a place to check what's new, what's going on, and that will be the front page of the Dependency Law Center. The next thing I think most people find very useful is when they're trying to get their CLEs, either because they need to catch up and they need a number of hours, or because they're working on something and there's a topic that they need to dig into. So, you've just come across a kid and there's a master trust involved and you really have no earthly idea what that is, right? You can go on the Dependency Law Center and read the administrative code provision on master trust and your head will be spinning. So you might want to get a CLE training on what master trust is. So when you come to the site, if you go to just the CLE page, you will see a listing alphabetically by the name of the CLE. But you can also look at a list of the topics. So you want to go to Master Trust, you can click on that list of topics, scroll down, find Master Trust, and you will see that this Master Trust webinar no longer is eligible for CLE credits, but you can click right on it and go to the site, which in this case is on the USF website, and watch the Master Trust CLE. So there are a number of CLEs on here whose time has expired or who never had CLE credit, but we leave them on because it may have information that you need. And so we don't want to just have, just like USF has such a broad variety of training videos, if the law changed, that's not timeless, but the underlying information might be. So we have a ton of CLEs on here, some with credit, some with not, that you can search topically. I will tell you, most of the CLEs are either housed at the USF Center for Child Welfare or in the Guardian Ad Litem website, because those are the main databases of CLEs. But you will find things that are located in other places as well. But this is a place where you can search by the topic of what you need when you need it. The next section I want to show you all is the pro bono section. And it's a little bit of a misnomer because we call it pro bono and we say find a pro bono attorney, but this is actually a great place to find somebody who can give you expert advice just to help you along the way without necessarily taking a case. So we have asked and have several individuals, I don't know, maybe 100 or so right now, who have agreed to participate in this way. And when they sign in, they register themselves, they volunteer and they tell you what county they are willing to work in, the areas of law that they have expertise in, and what they're willing to do. Some are willing to take a case. Some are only willing to answer a question by phone or by email. And then they let you know whether whether you could give your name to the member of a public, or if they only want to be approached by a legal aid program, or if an attorney or judge can contact them directly. So you can look by topic. If you have an administrative law question, you've got several attorneys on here who are willing to answer questions that are really top notch. And either we'll do it statewide. We've got an attorney in Chicago who's willing to take questions on administrative law. So it's a way, and I would encourage, I think there's almost 200 people on this webinar. If you're an attorney and you're not already registered, please take a minute and go to Volunteer for the Pro Bono Network and fill out this form and make yourself available to your colleagues. So this site is only searchable by other attorneys who are registered to use the site. So members of the public cannot find you using this, only other lawyers who are registered for the Florida Dependency Law Center. It's a tool I go to frequently because we do get requests for attorneys. Can somebody help this family? And it is a go-to place, and we get people to take cases, but it's also a place to share your expertise with others. The Dependency Law Center has a number of communication tools to connect you with your fellow attorneys. So the first is the email networks, and the email networks are intended for what you see now are the ones that I am eligible to participate in. And I've signed up for dependency attorneys. This goes to all dependency attorneys that can represent any party. We have one that's specifically counsel for immigrant children. And so only attorneys who are representing immigrant children can be members of that particular email group. There is one for survivors of human trafficking. That email group actually has some members who are non-attorneys but work in that field. What we you're not seeing here is there's a specific one for parents attorneys, and I'm not a parents attorney. I'm not in their email group. So when you join the Dependency Law Center, they will ask, the sign up asks for your affiliation. So you designate if you work for a regional council, if you're a guardian ad litem attorney, represent parents or children, and that will dictate whether you're eligible to participate in any particular email group. Once you're in there, you can email any other member of that group, email the whole group to get their input and expertise. We also have discussion boards where attorneys can post a question and get other people to answer questions. This is one about waiving the finalization fee, the adoption fee for filing adoption finalizations. This is not used as much right now, but it's a function that's available for people who are participating in the site. We also have a document vault, which allows anyone to put their own documents in. So if you're willing to share a form or other document, you can upload that document, and it's all searchable. Every word of it is searchable. Robert was kind enough to give us an upload several, I think a couple dozen orders from independent living appeals, for example. They're in there, and all of them are searchable by keyword for every term that's in every document. And then the major resource section, we have a number of things under resources. There are cases, there are hundreds of cases that are in here, and other types of material. So you can browse by topic, and there is a whole very long list of topics that are available to search. And so you could do it by actual topic. And in this case, we had a question to the presenters about 4E funding and parents attorneys. So I happen to know that if we look under a parent attorney as the topic, we will see these are the resources that are linked to that topic. There are 8 articles and papers related to parent representation, including federal documents from the Children's Bureau, paper on how to claim, a technical overview on how to claim 4E funding for parents attorneys, articles about the benefits of multidisciplinary representation. So there are a number of articles which I can either look at or download. There's a link, and for anyone who is interested in this topic, there's a link to the Family Justice Initiative, which will take you directly to their website, and there's a ton of information on funding from that. There are 2 cases that are linked to this topic. So it will give me a topic heading. Parent attorney is linked to hearing shelter parent attorney. And in this first case, the shelter hearing was held without the presence of the father's counsel. The shelter order was quashed, and the department conceded that the order departed from the essential requirements of the law. That's the basics of the case. We are not Westlaw. We are not all-knowing, all-seeing, all-comprehensive, but this is a place to get you a good start on your research. You can take a look at that case and download it if you like. Sometimes there'll be 30 cases on the topic. Sometimes you'll look for something and there won't be any cases. So there are a variety of different types of resources on the site. The most popular ones are the cases, and some links, practice manuals, tips, etc. So all of those are searchable. Really, rules and statutes, we would direct people to the USF Center for Child Welfare site, because that's really the best place to have a comprehensive look at those resources. So that is the quick and dirty on the Florida Dependency Law Center website. There's a ton more functionality that is available if people want to use it. The next site I want to take you to is the Florida's Children First website. So we have, as an organization.
Really fast, we got a comment that someone's not able to see your screen. I just want to check with maybe Hans or Lisa. Can you see her screen okay? Okay, so hey, sorry about that. Continue.
I am so sorry. And I'm happy to do private lessons offline if someone, if I went too quickly and you want me to catch you up. I will be happy to do that. We used to have a resource attorney who would hold monthly webinars to help people walk through the site, but unfortunately we don't have the funding for that right now. So just quickly wanted to show you the Florida's Children First website and some of the resources that are available on here. So most of our most pertinent key things are right on the home page. If you haven't seen them already, we have our COVID-19 tips. These documents were written and intended for young people, especially those who have aged out of care or were recently in care, but all of us can learn something from them. So we have a specific tip on healthcare, how to get your stimulus payment. That was really pertinent a while ago, and who knows if it'll be again. Doing your taxes, getting reemployment insurance, etc. So those tips are available. And again, if you're working with any poor people, not just former foster youth, you may find that those tips are helpful. Also on our homepage, you will see a link to the Homeless Youth Handbook, which is a separate website operated with Baker McKenzie. The Florida version of the Homeless Youth Handbook was done with Disney and Baker McKenzie and Florida's Children First. So we have a link to that. We have awesome digital stories, which are short videos made by current and former foster youth. And they cover a variety of topics. And if you're doing training or trying to explain what child welfare is like from a child's perspective, these are great videos that you can use to help share information. We have information about the tuition and fee exemption. This is something that we get asked a lot. Question and answer about Medicaid for former foster youth. So all of those are linked on our front page. We have a resources section that you can go to directly, and the things are linked and relinked, crossed over in a bunch of places. We have our issue areas and our topics. You know, again, if you clicked on For Youth, you will see publications that we've created intended to benefit young people. This first one, the Independent Living Benefit Chart, is one of the most popular ones we have. People are trying to understand the interplay of all the laws and how to get children benefits, what will happen if they change the custodial status, and you know, how that works through. So that's linked right there in the For Youth. If you're not sure what you're looking for, the homepage does have a search button. That's pretty good. So we have a number of resources. The Florida's Children First website is available to the public. You do not have to be a registered user. So I think I've run through all of my highlights, and I am happy to take questions. Robert, if you want.
Robin, we have a great question, and it may be a demo. So get ready. If you were looking on these resources for information about youth aging out of care, and specifically around housing, where would you go and how would you do that?
Yeah, I would tell you that I don't think either place has specific information that is just directed at housing. We do have on the COVID-19 resources, there is a general kind of freaked about finances, and the resource list that Youth Shine did with Vita Nova that have information related to housing, but I have not seen a comprehensive document that addresses youth housing on any site. There are resources and information about the independent living benefits, but not housing as a separate issue.
Is the My Florida, My Family resource website helpful in this regard?
I doubt it.
Okay.
It's intended for specific services. I have a kid that needs tutoring in Algebra 1, or I have a family that is looking for a bedroom set to put in their house. But I don't think it's any more specific than calling 211, say, to find out what housing resources are available. But I'd be happy to talk to people about housing specifically and some things that are going on, but there's not a particular resource you could go to right now that would answer that question.
Gotcha. We had another question. This is incredibly important. Are any of these resources, do they describe grants and other funding opportunities for people working in the child welfare system?
No, they talk about the funds that are available to young people in terms of services that they're entitled to, aftercare, independent living stuff. But as far as, if you wanted to start a community organization and purchase transitional housing to help young people, you would not find those type of resources on any of these sites.
Gotcha.
But you could go to the USF site and learn about grant writing, which is really cool.
There you go. Lisa was going to jump in.
Yeah.
And we had one more question. If an attorney is already registered on the Florida Dependency Law website and needs to update their information, is that possible?
Yeah, they have to just contact me directly to do that.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there's not an online way to do that, but we will happy to do that for them.
Perfect. I think that's it, Christy.
Thanks, Robin, for all that comprehensive information. As always, I really appreciate it. And if you want to go ahead and type how people can contact you into the chat box, that way if they need to update information or if they want a one-on-one tutoring session with you, which it would be an amazing opportunity, by the way. So, and then last but not least, we have Robert Latham, who has been doing a wonderful job moderating. He's going to talk to us about public records requests and whatever else he wants to talk about at the end of the year. Thank you, Robert.
You're very, very welcome. Can you see my screen? Let me start there.
Yes.
Should be a light bulby type thing. Yes. Okay. All right. So I am not going to talk about a website. That's not. Yeah, we don't have a website for what I'm going to talk about. So a lot of the information that you've heard about in these repositories are there because of the really hard work of people at DCF and other organizations. And the dashboards, for example, are absolutely amazing. We use them in our work all the time. What I want to talk about though is what if you need something that's not there? And there are ways to do that. Florida has wonderful public records laws that make it possible for you to ask for information in a way that you need it and specifically what you need. Keep in mind, and I'm not going to go over public records laws, but keep in mind it can come with a cost if it takes a lot of time and effort to generate. But I want to offer something to you to hopefully help out. So our office a few years ago was looking at the dashboards, and we wanted to see the underlying information so that we could start generating our own reports and kind of doing them on the fly. It's great. The dashboards are great for seeing general information, but downloading a lot of spreadsheets can become cumbersome. And so what we did, give me 1 second. There we go. Can you see my second page? Yes. All right. So behind the dashboards is FSVN. And FSVN is the collective information of all the case managers and everyone else working in the system. And if you ever wondered, if you work in the system, if you ever wondered like what kind of information they have about your clients in FSVN, there is actually a place you've been looking at it for a long time already. This is pulled from a JRSSR, a Judicial Review Social Studies, Social Services report. And this is the placement history this is one page of the placement history for one kid. So you can see that the placement dates, there are all the dates, the types of placements there were. I've taken out the provider names, so it's not really for public consumption. Placement end dates, placement end reasons. If you have that information for every single kid, across the system, that's incredibly powerful. And in fact, our office does. So we did a public records request for the anonymized information. So I don't have names, but I have just the data points of all those dates and all those placement moves. And it's a giant spreadsheet of 380 meg spreadsheet, plus a bunch of payment information as well. We took all that information and we're able to create reports and spreadsheets and other information for people on the fly, which is fantastic. So the database that we have, we call it the public placement database because it is the public record version of DCF's FSVN placement information. It's got about 300,000 kids in it. It goes all the way back to kids that were in the system in the 1980s, because when they created FISFIN in the early 2000s, they went back and recreated the kids that were still there, which is fantastic as well. And it's got over 1.2 million database entries. So 1.2 million placement changes in this database. So you can do a lot with this. And it's not just the little things that I just showed you. It's placement removals, reasons, but it's also child demographics. So age, race, gender, citizenship, anonymized. I can't tell who the kid is, but I can tell things about that child. Okay, if you have all of that information and zip codes for where the kid was placed, you can do an amazing amount of work with that. So the first thing we did was generate, and this is, I'm very proud of these. These are I think these are very pretty, but also very tragic. The first thing we did was we created maps. So that list of placements that we had for that one kid that gets printed out in the JRSSR would look like this if plotted on a map. Each dot is a placement. The size of the dot is how many days they were in the placement. So bigger means they were there longer. Oranger and redder placements are more institutional. So group homes, institutions. Bluer and purpler placements are relatives and foster homes. So this young person did not spend very much time in foster care and spent a lot of time in institutional care and group home care. And so you can follow this child's journey through the child welfare system in a way that the list of placements just doesn't convey. We've used this with kids themselves. I've done kind of counseling sessions with kids where we go through and kind of remember their journey. I had one young person in a panel that we were doing, look at his map up on the screen, and he said he could remember every single one of these dots. Every single one of them. So this is amazingly powerful just in and of itself for showing just kind of the harms of placement instability and what it looks like to be a placement unstable child in the system. But we have a lot of other information. So if we take all those dates and look at times and other things, we can actually get a lot of statistics out of this as well. So we would know that this child entered care roughly at age 12, spent 6 years in the foster care system. Almost 3 of those years were in institutions, 2.5 were in group homes, 4 months were in foster care, 1 month with relatives, and 23 days on run. This young person had 146 placement changes. If you add up all the moves around the state, they moved 3,851 miles and had 474 other kids placed with them concurrently. I call them roommates, but placed with them concurrently in foster homes. The average days per placement was 14 for this young person, right? And so this tells a story in a way that spreadsheets don't. And we can do this for any kid that we have the information for. That's the tricky part. I don't know who the kids are from the data I have. But if you have the data, we can create these for you. So using the same information, we were also able to do kind of one-off reports for agencies and other advocacy work. So this, for example, is just one graphic from a report we did on placement instability in Hillsborough. And so Hillsborough being on the left side of the state, this is where they place their children in residential group care settings, which are all on the other side of the state. And so you can start identifying needs in a very visual way, right? Like it seems to suggest you need closer residential group care, residential therapeutic group care, and RTC programs closer to Hillsborough County. That same report had this graphic in it as well. These are placements. The number of children who were in those placements, I'm not going to go into the details here, but the average placement length, the percentage of those kids that left that placement because the provider requested the change. So you see that ranges anywhere from 23% at a group home program to 70, 85, 86%, 87% at the top. 87% of the 125 or so kids that were there were asked to leave by that foster parent. Largely probably a night-by-night placement, right? You could get the average number of children there at any given time and the average day rate using the pay rate or the pay information as well, what the day rate was at that placement. So some foster homes had a day rate around $19.51, but then another one in blue toward the bottom had a day rate closer to $60 a day, right? And so then you start looking, you can start seeing very transparently inequity in your child welfare system and where some of the instability is coming from. Maybe these numbers are good numbers or bad numbers. It only makes sense in the context of your particular system, right? But having that data allows us to know so much more about the day-to-day operations. A couple of other things we were able to do, I'm not going to show lists here, but we were able to create red flag lists. So placements that had children who had passed away while placed there, not obviously they didn't necessarily pass away in that placement. It could have just been while placed there, but that was one of them. Placements with really high runaway rates. And interestingly, I like this one. Placements where children ran away for the first time at higher rates. So the child had never run away before, but children who went to that placement ran away for their first time at higher rates in that placement. Placements with really high night-by-night rates, unplanned disruptions, placements with really high Baker Act numbers or arrest numbers out of that placement. Those are all things we would want to know, and that's all things we can calculate off of this database. Then really quickly in my last minute or so, we're also able, because we have it down to the day that case managers have entered it into, we can create censuses similar to what's on the dashboard, but at the day level. So you can see a lot of, a much jaggier line than what's on the dashboards, which are month by month. And we can also break the placement types out into a lot more different varieties than are available in the dashboards. So you can see here, the purple line is relative care, which has largely been the predominant care type for us. It is now kind of eclipsed somewhat by foster care. We'll see where that goes. Group care in the kind of goldenrod color toward the bottom has been decreasing slightly over the past few years, and then everything else is down at the bottom. But because I know who the kids are, right, and have demographics about them, I can also do a race census. So this is for Broward. Broward's system is highly disproportionate, as are most, but look at 2013. In 2013, something changed. Something changed in Broward, a policy or some other thing changed in Broward where children that were labeled as Black in FSFN went from approximately 800 to up to 1,600. They doubled over the course of those couple of years, right? And so as a person working in that system, that's something I would want to know and look at the policies that went into creating that inequity. They are coming down, right? They've been working hard, and they are bringing those numbers back down. And I think this is my last one. And so because I can look at placement types and at a much more granular level, I can look at the race census, for example, for kids by race in correctional placements. So the highest number of foster kids in Florida that were in a correctional placement was back in 2008 when it was, I don't know, around 190. The blue line is children labeled as Black in FSFN. So historically, Black children in FSFN, even though they are the minority population statewide, don't let the Broward chart fool you. They make up the highest percentage of kids in the in correctional placements, and that is true even to this day, and that is true even through the pandemic, when, as you see, lots of correctional placements were ended and kids were removed from there. So I think that's my last slide. Thank you so much, Christie. I hand it back to you.
Thank you to all the panelists. You all had perfect timing. And everyone can tell just from their presentations how passionate they are about this work that they do. And I just want to thank all of you, because it is not easy work by any stretch of the imagination. I really appreciate your passion and enthusiasm for Florida's children. We did have a couple questions come in during Robert's presentation. Someone asked if you have data on post-care outcomes.
So the placement data only covers actual placements. So for what I have, once they're gone, they don't show up in that anymore. But it does cover EFC placements, and so we can see instability through the EFC placements as well, which is very, very interesting.
Okay. You got a compliment about your cool presentation. Yes, it was, how you broke everything down. Another person asked, are there plans to update this since 2014? And are there any plans to update the Baker Act data?
So the data that I have, the public data set that I have right now was last updated July 2020. So it's only a couple months old. I'm getting snapshots. So every 4 to 6 months, I ask for another snapshot, and DCF and DCNF and I work together to get it. So that was the first question about the date, and Baker Act data. Baker Acts are really tricky because they don't always get labeled as a placement change, especially in relative care. So I would like to see, if I had a request of DCF, I would love to see more precise reporting of Baker Act and correctional placements, for example. Yes.
Okay, and one more, just a resource that someone is sharing in Broward County. The Family Success Agency provides rent assistance. AuntBertha.com has all food pantries across the US. And there's a Dade County program called HAND, Community Action, that has food and housing funds. So thank you for sharing that. I'm just gonna put that in the, I'm not able to cut, maybe I can cut and paste that into the chat so everyone can see those resources in case.
And Christie, while you're doing that, I don't think I explicitly said, if anybody has an interesting research question or question about what they want answered in their area, please contact me, because I really thoroughly enjoy trying to squeeze information out of this data set.
I can tell. I love your enthusiasm for numbers. If you just want to put your contact information in the chat box. And do any of the panelists have anything else you'd like to share before I do my closing announcements?
Thanks so much.
The only thing, go ahead, Robin.
No, I was just saying thanks.
I was able to locate the disproportionality report. It's located on the dashboard homepage. Off to the left is an index tab. If you open that index tab and it's alphabetically aligned, it gets you down to the disproportionality report. And the data has been updated through June 30th of 2019.
Fantastic. Thank you for searching for that. So I did also want to announce that the Florida Bar CLE number is 4163. Again, that's 4163 for the attorneys on the webinar. And it has been approved for 1.5 general and technology credits. And just a reminder and a thank you to USF for taking care of the child welfare certificates. I think most people check that box when they registered. If you didn't, you can email me and I'll put my email in here in case you have any problems accessing the recording or anything else. And the recording will be emailed out tomorrow with the CLE information. And I did have a request to send out the chat recorded session also, so I will send that out tomorrow also. All right, well, wonderful. Thank you guys so much for doing this again. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy days and for the work you do every day. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.